What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got another turkey hunt for you today, and then after that we'll come back and do a bit of a gear dump here. Got all the stuff laid out on the table here. We get a lot of questions about what gun, what ammo we use, calls, decoys, all that. So I'll talk about all the stuff on the table here, what I take to the field with me during turkey season. But first, we'll get right to the hunt. Well, good morning. It is May 8th. Feeling a little bit tired this morning. Been averaging about 3 hours of sleep. And when my alarm went off at 3:30, I just had to remember that there's only so many days in the spring that you get to go out and chase gobblers. Tomorrow's not a guarantee, so I had to get up, get moving. And I came out to one of our favorite river bottom locations. This is a spot that we've hunted in the past quite a bit. So I'm gonna get geared up here, get out on the road, start listening for gobbles, and see where the morning takes me.
It's gobbling about 150 yards back there. This bottom of the grass is growing up quite a bit. It's damp this morning. You may be wanting to come out to this field. Well, as you can see, there's not one, but 4 toms out in that field. I would have liked to have got a little bit closer, but if I would have rounded the corner anymore, I'd have been able to see back up into those bigger maple trees along the creek where they were roosted. So I found this brush pile, this big blowdown right behind me here. So I've got great cover. Don't know that I'll be able to pull those gobblers away from the hens right now. But if the hens work this way, if the toms see the decoy, it might be in business. Look at that sun shining on them, man. Well, the hen is finally starting to work this way. It's played out pretty slowly so far. It's a relatively cool morning. Temps are in the low 40s, wind chills make it in the upper 30s. The birds got rained on last night, so it's been a little bit of a slow start to the morning. Those hens have just been staying in one spot, preening. Gobblers are just strutting around them. So there's 4 in that group, and then there's another one up on the hill. But this one hen is just slowly starting to work her way out into the field. What I'm hoping is that those hens bring them by close enough that it gets within their, within that bubble that they have to feel like they got to come in and confront this intruder, this Jake decoy that I've got out here. Been at a stalemate here for a while. 4 toms seem like they're losing interest. They're starting to work their way off. One of the hens is coming back out into the field, and now that 5th gobbler has worked his way down and is probably going to approach this hen here. He's got some feathers missing in his fan, so he's pretty easy to recognize. Looks like the 4 are going to go run him off, though, if he gets too close to that hen. At least I would assume. And there's actually a 6th gobbler up on top of the hill, way up on top. I could hear him gobbling up there. Yeah, the group before ran him off. They aren't having any of that. One of the hens worked her way down into the timber. I'm assuming she's probably going to go to her nest. This other hen may be doing the same thing. But my hope is she moves off fast enough that those gobblers lose track of her and all of a sudden they're without hens. Well, it's about 8:30 right now. I watched the hen go up over the hill, and the toms are heading in the same direction. And I'd like to be able to loop around, get ahead of them in that tree line over there, but the only bad thing is I'm running out of room on the public land. Basically, that is the boundary up there. The hen has already probably crossed over, and those toms are likely going to follow her. So I think I'm going to give it a few minutes here. Obviously, they heard the calling from this spot this morning. They just had those two hens with them. There was no reason for them to come over here. But also, there was two other lone toms in the area. There was a one with the feathers missing in his fan, and then there was another one I saw just briefly up on top of the hill, but he was gobbling a bunch. It's possible now that these four are moved off that I'd be able to call in one of those other birds. Ooh, there's one. Might not be going anywhere. All the way across the field. Oh. Those four birds had just worked off. I was just getting ready to get up and make a move, try to work around on them, but I figured I needed to call one more time real loud to make sure there wasn't another bird close by. And sure enough, about 300 yards away is one of these two other gobblers that were separate from that group of four. And I'm assuming this is the sixth one because he didn't have the wedge, he didn't have the feathers missing in his fan. Just called to him a few times and brought him right on in. Oh yeah. Pretty barring in his fan right there. That is beautiful. That is awesome. Had another really good setup this morning. Man, you can barely see the camera back in there. A group of birds were hanging out in the corner for most of the morning. There was a fifth tom that was hanging out close to them, and the four eventually ran him off. And then there was this other bird that I believe is this turkey that I saw briefly, and then I could hear him gobbling up on top of the hill. And I know he heard my calling at one point because he responded to it. So like I was hoping, as soon as those four toms moved off, I'm guessing this bird came down and was just scoping out the field. Well, as you can see, fourth season here in Iowa gets really, really good. Last year was really wet down this river bottom, and we didn't really spend much time hunting here. What little time I did spend here, didn't even see or hear a turkey. But they are definitely back in here this year. And this hunt was a lot of fun this morning, to come into a spot and owl hoot, strike up a bunch of birds, work in on them, then to be able to watch all those toms throughout the morning. There's a lot of different ways to hunt turkeys, but one thing I found, it seems like more often than not that patience will pay off. It suits my style of hunting more, especially when I'm self-filming. You know, when you got two guys, it's a lot easier. You got less gear to carry, you're a lot more mobile. You can just move quicker and set up easier. But I felt like in this situation, it was the right move to stay put, at least for a little while. And it paid off with the fourth season tom here. Well, as you can see by that hunt, we love the fourth season in Iowa.
You got lonely toms out there looking for hens, and it seems like there's just not a ton of hunting pressure, even on the public land. It's just a fun time to be in the turkey woods here in the home state of Iowa. All right, first up, I'm going to talk about the gun and the ammo that I use. And I will say that even though I've been turkey hunting for about 25 years now, I didn't start shotgun hunting for turkeys until about 7 or 8 years ago. I was just strictly bow hunted for turkeys back in Nebraska, where I grew up hunting primarily. And I would say now that I probably do about 80% shotgun hunting. I try to get 1 or 2 bow hunts in every year. But for a while there, I was just kind of borrowing guns from, whoever would let me. Zach's little 20, Aaron's 870, whatever gun I could borrow is what I was using. And then about 4 years ago, our good friend Jim Reiser gave me this shotgun to use. It is a Benelli Super Black Eagle 2. And that way I actually had a dedicated turkey gun. And this is a turkey killing machine. Jim used it for a lot of years. Then, he collects shotguns, so he has all kinds of other guns that he turkey hunts with. And he gave me this, and I've absolutely loved it. Obviously, you don't need this fancy of a shotgun to hunt turkeys. I mean, you saw the Jake, got that single shot from Walmart, $100 gun. Aaron's been turkey hunting for how long with his Remington 870. Zach's been using his little 20. But because of Jim's generosity, I get to use this really nice auto-loading shotgun. So as far as the specs go, it's a 12-gauge shotgun. It has a Carlson's .665 restriction choke tube on it. And then I put this sling on it. And then as far as the sights on this gun, Jim had put on a True Glow micro fiber optic front and rear sight, and I really like that for a turkey hunting shotgun. With that front and rear sight, I feel like it makes me shoulder the gun properly and make sure, especially when I'm swinging or shooting from an awkward position, that I have the gun mounted properly, and it gives me a ton of confidence when I make the shot, which is obviously very important for whatever weapon you're using. As far as the ammo goes, I use Winchester XX 3.5-inch Magnums, 5-shot, and it's just proved to be a lethal combination with that gun. Patterns really well. Every turkey that I've ever shot with this gun, it knocks them down hard. And the gun rocks me pretty good too. It's actually kind of funny to go back and watch like the second angle cameras when I shoot the gun. Like it sets you back pretty good, but I've never had a bruised shoulder or a bruised cheek or anything like that. It just comes with the territory when you're shooting these little sticks of dynamite, these 3.5-inch Magnums. All right, so that's the gun and the ammo that I use. Now we'll talk about decoys here a little bit. When it comes to decoys, it's going to totally depend on the situation. A lot of times when I go back and hunt Nebraska or Kansas, bow hunting early in the season, I primarily use a full strut decoy and possibly in conjunction with a hen, but the big thing is the full strut decoy. It works really well in those situations. Hunting open country, you got that visual advantage with the bigger decoy with a full fan. A lot of times that'll attract attention from a long ways away. Oftentimes I'm hunting private land, and typically I'm not walking very far to where I'm hunting. It's easy to get in and out, so I'm carrying a lot more gear, the blind, the bow, the cameras, decoys, stuff like that. That's about the only time that I use a full strut decoy. Now when it comes to most other hunting situations, especially if I'm self-filming, I'm probably going to be taking a decoy, and almost always it's going to be a Jake decoy. And the reason I choose a Jake is because oftentimes you're going to get that more aggressive response out of the gobbler. If they have an aggressive response to it, it probably means they're going to come all the way into the decoy. Sometimes obviously you're going to get a bird that's subordinate that's maybe been whipped up on, but more often than not, when a gobbler sees it, they're coming all the way in and they're committed. That's been my experience, and very few times has it ever felt like that having Jake decoy has cost me a bird. This is my go-to for most situations, almost all situations, if I'm carrying a decoy at all. Almost never use just a hen by itself. And the reason for that simply is I've had situations where a gobbler comes in, sees it 60, 70 yards away, hangs up, expects that hen to go to him. Of course, when the hen doesn't, sometimes they'll just lose interest and leave. Now, a bit of a disclaimer here. Obviously, if you're hunting on public land and even in hunting on private land situations as well, if you're using a male decoy, especially an ultra-realistic male turkey decoy, there is an inherent risk with attracting other hunters and having them shoot at the decoy and possibly in your direction. Obviously, you need to be very conscious about the way you're using the decoy, the setup, and the way that you transport it. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the vest and the gear that I carry. This is a Alps Outdoors vest. Honestly, I don't even know the name of it, but it's a dedicated turkey vest. It's got pockets for everything you need. It's maybe a little bit on the bigger and the bulkier side. Jake and Ted, Zach, they've kind of refined and come up with a little bit smaller and lighter weight setups. But a lot of times I'm self-filming, so I need a little bit more space to carry stuff. So this is just what I've been going with. So what I typically have in the vest is going to be, a lot of times I'm carrying a turkey wing around just to add a little more realism. I primarily use it to mimic the sound of a turkey flying down out of the tree, just adding more to that, the realism of what you're trying to present to the turkey. Optics are obviously very important to turkey hunting, pair of binoculars. And also a lot of times I'm going to carry a rangefinder with me. Keep that in one of the side pockets, especially in open country scenarios or hunting fields or something like that. I want to know, where's the max distance that I'm comfortable shooting with that gun. That way you're not, extending shots past what your gun is capable of, or sometimes it's just hard to tell if you're really crouched down, you got vegetation in front of you. Turkeys are sometimes hard to judge exactly how far they are, especially if you don't have a perfectly clear look at them. And that way, if you've pre-ranged distances, you know when that turkey gets within range, and that way you're not taking too far shots and possibly wounding a bird. So as far as calls go, I'm not a real sophisticated turkey caller. I don't have my vest just loaded with a bunch of different calls. Basically going to have two different types. I'm going to have a friction call, which I'm really partial to the Woodhaven Crystal series, whether it's the Crystal Ninjas, what I was using last year, the Crystal Spur series. And then I have this little container here with several different kinds of mouth calls, different cuts. Ninja Hammer, got a Viper cut, Ghost cut. That way just get slightly different tones. But I'll use this crystal call most of the time. That's what I'm most confident with. And then, have the mouth call in to help close when gobblers coming in can't afford to move and use a friction call. Like I said, I'm not real sophisticated. I'm no Aaron or no Shane Simpson, no Dave Owens, anything like that. I tend to keep it simple when it comes to turkey calls, and again, try to add in realism where possible with, with the wing or scratching leaves or anything like that. And then of course I also have a couple locator calls in the vest. Got the Woodhaven Crow call, Owl Hooter. All right, so let's see what other miscellaneous items I have in here. Got toilet paper and wet wipes, needs no explanation. Oftentimes going to have a couple Cliff Bars in the pockets. This is what's left of the drape. Cut a little piece off here. I'm not sure where the rest of it went to. I guess this is what I usually drape over the camera to break up the outline and conceal it. But this camo drape, I don't even know what the name of it is. I'll have to put it in the text at the bottom of the screen here, see if I can figure out exactly what it's called, what brand it is. Our friend Jim Reiser has given this to us. We've just found that this drape works really well. Times where we've filmed back towards our setup where we have the drape still over the camera, you can just see how well it breaks up the outline, how well it blends in. And along the same lines of concealment, this is a jacket that I use. It's a North Mountain Gear. I really like these jackets. Break up your outline better, blend in better, and also they're pretty thin. They're not very heavy. Really like using this. I'll use these all season long, just layer over the top of whatever I'm wearing. Early in the season, I may have a sweatshirt, layer over that, and then late in the season, I just may be wearing a single base layer or a t-shirt underneath these when it's warm. Okay, well that pretty well covers it as far as the gear that I take with me to the turkey woods. The only other thing to touch on would be the video cameras. And for anybody that's interested, the primary camera that we use for filming is a Sony X80. And we also use various action cameras, Insta360, GoPros. This Sony action camera is what I use. Put on a mount that goes on the stock of the gun. I got a little GoPro mount here where it slides in, and that's what gives that down the gun barrel, that over the shoulder, down the gun barrel point of view that we've started to incorporate here in the past couple years. So without getting too far into the weeds on all the specs and the camera setups and stuff like that may be a totally separate video for another day. So we use 3, 4, maybe even 5 different cameras on a hunt, just depending on the situation, to capture all the angles and put together for you guys to watch. So I think that's probably enough for today. This is the gear that I carry to the field most of the time when I'm run and gun, shotgun hunting. Bow hunting is a little bit different. So thanks again for joining me today, for following along, for all the support. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next video.